everybody, and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Form's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm your host, Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's edition of Out of the Gate. Daily Racing Form handicappers Mike Beer, Craig Milkowski, and I will take a look at three major Kentucky Derby preps from across the country. The Withers at Aqueduct, the Holy Bull at Gulfstream, the Robert B. Lewis at Santa Anita. Nicole Russo has some pedigree pick information for you. David Aragona from Timeform US, always looking for value in his spotlight section, plus best bets, horses to watch, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. Our colleague Craig Milkowski, fitting with our Kentucky Derby prep theme, has a 3-year-old to watch.
My horse watch this week is going to be Silver Prospector from the Smarty Jones Stakes run on January the 24th at Oaklawn, a race in which he finished 4th. He was 2-1 in that race. He was expected to run a bit better, but it's a race I think is just a complete throwout. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. He didn't break well. He got shuffled back to last. Didn't appear to be handling the muddy surface very well. It was a race where the fractions were really slow. All of the fractions or pace figures in Timeform US are coded in blue. And he actually made a bit of a run into the stretch before flattening out. That's another point about the race. It's at the mile distance at Oaklawn Park, they use that short stretch where they use a 16th pole at the finish line. So it's really hard to make up any ground late. So for me, I'm just, as I said, drawing a line through that running line for Silver Prospector, and I expect much better from him the next time out.
My horse watch raced at Aqueduct last week. Frank's gun is loaded. As a newly turned 4-year-old, this is a very lightly raced horse, though. He began his career down at the fairgrounds. He ran really well, I thought, in his sprint debut. Then they stretched him out for his second career start, and he was an impressive winner over a good field, too. He came with a big finish in that race to win. He missed a lot of time. We're going to look right now at his first start off about a 10-month layoff here. This is also first time Danny Gargan, which does not hurt, especially the way Gargan's barn is going right now. But Frank's gun is loaded. Showed speed in this race to keep up with the pace for the first time in his career. He overtook an odds-on favorite around the turn and just put that horse away. And he's going to win clear at the end of this race with an 88 Beyer speed figure. It's only his 4th career start. He looks like a kind of horse who wants to go long, and he has a lot of upside, this horse.
Nice effort. I like the way he's striding out at the end of that race. My horse watch this week, 3-year-old filly by Tonalist that's been running in Maryland named Gauzy. This horse was claimed for $40,000 by Cal Lynch, given 6 months off. This horse was sprinting early in her career. The Tonalists, they want to go long. This horse is a half to fact finding, a stakes winner at a mile. The Dam was a stakes winner at a mile. Finally, Gauzy last time out had a chance to stretch out to a route distance. It was around 2 turns. She didn't break well. She was 4 wide around the first turn. She was 4 wide around the backstretch. And as they turn into the lane, she's still in with a big chance. But the horse down towards the inside, one last trial, also by Tonalist, just a little bit better than Gauzy, and she had a better ground-saving trip to be sure. Gauzy flattens out a little bit in this race, but I thought it was an improved performance. By her speed figure of only 56, she's no star, but she fits in the $40,000 maiden claiming ranks. I wouldn't mind seeing her run in a 1-turn mile or back in a 2-turn mile and a 16th. That's Gauzy, 3-year-old filly by Tonalist for trainer Cal Lynch. Let's get to some handicapping. The Grade 3 Holy Bull is up next. Let's take a look at the field for Saturday's Grade 3 $250,000 Holy Bull Stakes. It's carded as race number 11 on a stakes-laden Gulfstream card, and you can get expanded stakes previews of all the major races, all the graded stakes, and lots more at video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Mike, the most accomplished horse in this race by far is the number 3, Tiz the Law, winner of the prestigious Grade 1 Champagne, making his 3-year-old debut for Barclay Tag.
Yeah, right. This race goes directly through this horse, number 3, Tiz the Law. He ran really well in his first 2 career starts, including that Grade 1 win that you talked about, the Champagne. Listen, he disappointed the last time we saw him, but that was on a sloppy track. He's going to be really tough in this race if he shows up and runs his best.
And this was such a professional performance, second time out in the Champagne. You saw him just sitting in behind horses, patiently waiting for Manny Franco to give him his cue. Once he makes the lead, he spurts past some nice 2-year-olds, Green Light Go especially, and he goes on his way to an 89 Beyer speed figure. Your thoughts about his last race, the Kentucky Jockey Club?
Yeah, it wasn't an ideal trip. Obviously, you could throw in the sloppy trek, which you didn't have to love. It's a legitimate excuse for this horse. I didn't love his performance in the Kentucky Jockey Club, but I realized that there are excuses to be had.
Our colleague Craig Milkowski going to try to beat the favorite in the Grade 3 Holy Bull Stakes with a horse that paid $30 last time.
The Holy Bull Stakes drew a smallish field of just 7, but the Timeform US pace projector is still predicting that the pace will be fast. Personally, I don't really disagree with that, but I do think that it will be counteracted some by the 1:16 distance that they run at Gulfstream. There's a very short run to the first turn. They use an alternate finish line, so it makes things a little tougher on closers. The race is going to start with Tiz the Law. He had an obvious tough trip last time out. He got bottled up. Didn't run his best race as a heavy favorite. He was 3-5. But I didn't really like how he acted in the lane. He actually did get clear with plenty of time to kick on and win the race. And he just didn't finish what I was looking for, the way I was looking for a top 3-year-old. So as a likely favorite, I think he's got some real questions. So I'm looking to an allowance race from December, and I actually like to race at 2 of the horses in there. Toledo was a heavy favorite for Chad Brown. I thought he ran well. He did get shuffled back a little bit, but the horse that really impressed me the most was Ete Indian. He was pressured on the inside. He battled through quick fractions. He put away the other speeds. And then when he got challenged by Toledo, I really liked how he dug in and was able to hold that one off and remain well clear. So I think he is the horse to beat and should offer a decent price due to the presence of Tiz the Law.
I'll take a shot against the favorite as well here. I'm going to take the horse that Craig's pick just defeated in an allowance race down at Gulfstream Park in a 1-turn mile. Number 1, Toledo. This is a Chad Brown production from Juddmonte Farms. This horse has a nice pedigree. I did think he ran well in his first 2 starts down in New York. And just going back to that replay that Craig just showed, I just didn't really care for the ride that Toledo got. I realized he was a big favorite. Irad was showing some confidence in him, but just taking him back the way he did early, I thought it cost this race, and I thought he ran fine. He's bred to stretch out. I'll take a chance that he can beat the favorite here.
I agree with you, Mike. I'm going to go with Toledo as well for all the reasons you mentioned. He was in and among horses in the early part of that race, ended up trying to produce a 4-wide bid entering the turn, then had to come inside the drifting winner, Ete Indian. It was a good learning experience, I think, for Toledo, who drew a great inside post position. I think this pace is going to be solid, and he's going to be able to save valuable ground under Irad Ortiz going into the first turn. And considering these connections with Tiz the Law in this race, he's going to be a fair price on the tote. So Mike and I both go with Toledo in the Grade 3 Holy Bull. Nicole Russo's Pedigree Picks segment this week focuses on the Martha Washington Stakes at Oaklawn Park.
Well, Saturday is a big day on the 3-year-old scene with 3 Kentucky Derby points races, but there's another exciting 3-year-old to watch out for in Taraz, who goes in Saturday's Martha Washington and Oaklawn, which we'll look at the field for now. The race offers Kentucky Oaks points, but trainer Brad Cox has raised the possibility that Taraz could move on to a Kentucky Derby prep should she win impressively here. The 1-mile Martha Washington will be the 2-turn debut for Taraz, who has won her 2 sprint starts by a combined 18 3/4 lengths. So we'll look at her pedigree as it relates to that, and there is a decent amount of stamina in her immediate pedigree when you look at her sire and dam. She's by leading sire Into Mischief, who has sired 2 classic-placed runners in his last 2 crops in Kentucky Derby third-place finisher Audible and Preakness third-place finisher Owendale. She's out of Silk Route by the late classic sire Empire Maker, and Silk Route scored both of her wins at 1 mile and 1/8. She's also the dam of South Sea, also by Into Mischief. Now, he's only a winner at sprint distances, but is placed around 2 turns. Silk Route's dam Jibe was Group 1 placed at 1 mile in England. This is the extended family of European champion and classic winner Commander-in-Chief, who scored all his wins at 1 mile and 1/4 or beyond, and of other major route winners, although on turf, such as ARC winner Rainbow Quest. So really a nice foundation under Taraz. Of course, the competition and the tests will get stiffer as she moves on down the path to whatever spring classic she is pointed at. but the mile definitely seems within her scope. We'll be back with more analysis of this week's 3-year-old action on Out of the Gate after this break.
Master horse racing with the power of daily racing form. DRF has helped players win at the races for 125 years. Now the information you trust is better than ever. Get exclusive late-breaking news from our reporters at tracks across the country. Position yourself to win by adding Buyer speed figures and the new DRF formulator to your handicapping arsenal. Go to DRF.com today. Use coupon code DRF2020 to get a free formulator card and start winning.
Storm from Racing Blue, a breakthrough in sports nutrition for horses.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's throw up the field for the Grade 3 $250,000 Withers Stakes. It's your DRF Saturday Race of the Day, which means you can download free Formulator past performances on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Plus, for expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races this weekend, plus lots more, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Mike, a horse you made a horse watch here on Out of the Gate a couple of weeks ago is back to make his stakes debut. It's the beautifully bred Portos for Todd Pletcher. He's going to take money in this spot.
Yeah, I think he is. He's got a lot going for him. Not only his pedigree that you just mentioned, his connections as he goes out for Pletcher, who knows how to bring these horses along on the Derby Trail. The distance is no problem for this horse, and he did run a legit race last time. We're going to look at the replay of his maiden win. This is start number 4 for Portos. You know, listen, it's a wet track. He got right up close to the pace in here, and he's just going to leave this field for dead here in the stretch and win off by over 10 lengths. It was a really nice performance. It was not a strong field, Dan, but I guess if you're going to beat a weak field, you might as well beat him like this. He is stepping way up in class here.
Mile and an eighth, usually a big issue for these lightly raced 3-year-olds. Not so for this horse. 4 starts, 4 route races. He's faced good horses before that last race where he just dusted inferior competition. He is a strong contender despite stepping up for the first time in his career. Craig Milkowski is going to go with one of 2 Linda Rice trained horses in the Withers.
The Withers Stakes is an interesting betting race. It's a mile and an eighth early in the season. We don't often see that with 3-year-olds, though some of these have run it already. For instance, Shotsky comes in after winning the Grade 2 Remsen at this same distance over this same oval at Aqueduct with a nice 1:11 time form US speed figure. We have a few shippers in here who come in interesting, and I want to start by looking at some of the horses that have run big speed figures and then tell you why I'm actually going to go in a different direction. One is Monday Morning Club. He won a stakes race at Laurel last time with a really nice 1:15 time form US speed figure. He's a horse that I do think is going to be part of the pace, but he did that going 7 furlongs. It was a really fast pace last time, and that's usually not something that bodes well for stretching out to a mile and an eighth. New Commission is kind of similar. He ran a good second in that same race. He was a bit further back, but again, it was a 7 furlong race. I'm not sure that this is what these horses really want. I don't think they want a mile and an eighth. I understand taking a shot at this point in the year, but I'm going to look elsewhere. Shotsky, as mentioned, he did win that Grade 2 Remsen over this surface. He did it going wire to wire. He was clear early, and he held on late, holding off Aja Weed. But that was a track that we have coded as speed favoring. The pace was pretty moderate that day. I don't see that happening in here. So while I think he does have a shot, I think his price is going to be a bit short, and he doesn't interest me either. The other horse that ran a nice speed figure last time was Portos. He broke his maiden. He did it by 10 lengths. It took him a few tries to finally break that maiden, but once he did, he was impressive. As noted, he got that 1:09 time form US speed figure. But I'm a little tentative with him because it was an open lengths win on a sloppy track, and you often have to be careful if decide if these horses are going to replicate that or not. And with him, it's just going to be based on the tote board, but I suspect he's going to take some money just because of the authority of that win. The horse I'm leaning to actually has one of the slowest last race speed figures in the field, if not the slowest, and that's Max Player for Linda Rice. She actually, this horse has actually been campaigned by her at Parks. he trains in New York, but he has run both his races at Parks. And I actually really liked his race last time. He sat off what was a slow pace over a sloppy track. Again, you do have to be a little leery it's a sloppy track, but I like how he was able to overcome that slow pace, draw away easy, and he beat what I think is a pretty decent field in there. So I'm not too worried about that 93 Timeform US speed figure. I'm expecting a lot better this time. I think he is one that is likely to handle the distance more so than the others. So for me, taking a shot with a price here in this race, and that's going to be Max Player.
I'm going to agree with Craig in this race. I like Max Player shipping in from Parks as well for Linda Rice. Both starts around 2 turns. He looked like a horse who really needed his career debut. And when he came back for his second career start, we'll look at the replay of that right now. This is on a sloppy track. He raced wide throughout this race. He's going to take over right here in the upper stretch. And I like the way he finishes this race off, Dan. He runs right through the wire in here. I also just appreciate the fact that this is on a sloppy track. He didn't look to me like a horse who really relished a wet track. I think he's going to appreciate getting back to faster. I think he's going to appreciate the distance. And I just wanted a price in this race. He feels like he'll be a fair price in here.
He should be a fair price in here, especially with Portos and especially with the morning line favorite, the number 5, Shotsky, winner of the Grade 2 Remsen over this track and trip in his final start as a 2-year-old. We're going to show the Remsen. Shotsky got a great situation here. On Cigar Mile / Remsen Day, you wanted to be inside, you wanted to be up close to the pace. Luis Saez controlled this race from the start, got to the inside, opened up at just the right time on the far turn, and he has just enough to hold off this closer, Jaweed. It was a perfect trip to be sure for Shotsky, but I think he's capable of getting another one. I don't believe he needs the lead to succeed. There are a couple of stretch-out sprinters drawn to his inside that he can park himself off of, and maybe he can make that strong bid on the turn to create some separation. I liked his race 2 starts back in the Street Sense from off the pace, where he tried to make a mid-race move while 4 wide. I think there's some quality here with Shotsky, and if Portos takes the money, I believe he will, maybe Shotsky at 2-1 or 5-2 will offer just a tiny bit of value. We'll head on out to Southern California for their Kentucky Derby qualifying point race. It's the Robert B. Lewis. Let's go up the field for the Grade 3 $100,000 Robert B. Lewis Stakes. We're going a mile and a 16th at the Great Race Place, carded as race number 6 for expanded stakes previews of all the graded stakes races. DRF's ace Southern California analyst Brad Free, he analyzes all of the graded races at Santa Anita on Saturday. Head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We got a big favorite in here for Bob Baffert, the number 2,000 words. We'll get to him in a minute, but let's talk about the 3. Tis a Magician, going out for Dick Mandela. He lost Omaha Beach. Like Omaha Beach, this horse lost a few races to begin his career at short prices, finally put it all together in his most recent start.
Yeah, he did. He doesn't look quite as talented as Omaha Beach does, but he did, settle for second best 3 times in a row, and then he came through with this performance right here, his maiden win. He got right up on the pace in this race, Dan. You see him on a clear lead at the top of the stretch. I don't know. He ran fine in here. He's never in any danger through the final furlong. He's really going to have to improve, though, to win the Robert Lewis, I think.
And I wonder, after 6 starts, how much upside potential is already there, but certainly moving the right way off of this performance, at least a confidence-boosting win. Bob Baffert has 2, the favorite 1,000 words. The other Baffert, Potent Angle in Southern California sometimes. He's got the 5 High Velocity, winner of the Bob Hope, sprinting 2 starts back over only 3 other rivals. Couldn't find the excuse last time out against 1,000 words unless he didn't like the wet track.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fast horse early. I expect him to be on the lead again this time, but I'm with you. I didn't see the excuse last time. 1,000 words was able to keep right up with his pace last time, and this horse really gave it up at the end of the race. Like, maybe he doesn't really want to go distance of ground.
Well, we'll get one more chance to do it. Like you, I believe he'll be in front in the early portion of this race. Let's go to Craig Milkowski. He's got more on the favorite, 1,000 words.
The Robert Lewis Stakes drew a short field of 6, and personally I think it's going to come down to the 2 Bob Baffert trainees. We do have a couple new challengers. Those 2 both ran in the Los Al Futurity back in December, just before Christmas, and they both ran very well that day. 1,000 Words was able to win with a 1:13 Timeform US speed figure. High Velocity set the pace down inside, was pressured most of the way by his stablemate, held on for 3rd despite getting past late for 2nd, but I thought it was a good effort, and I really don't see much challenge in here. We have Encoder and Royal Act both moving the dirt, trying it for the first time. But looking at their breeding, it feels like more of just taking a shot than it does of really thinking these horses are going to be better on dirt. The one thing I will note is the post positions is high velocity draws outside. So maybe you might be tempted to think he'd have a bit of an edge where he was inside last time. But he was actually drawn outside last time too and just outbroke the field, moved over to the rail. And myself, I think 1,000 Words is going to be really tough to beat. I don't think he's going to offer any value, but he's already shown his versatility. He broke his maiden sprinting on a fast track. He then won that Los Al race, a grade 2 routing over an off track. He's come from a bit off the pace. He's won from on the lead. So this is a horse I'm not really going to take a shot against. So for me, it's 1,000 Words and Robert Lewis.
I don't think I have too much to add to what Craig brought up about 1,000 Words already. He's going to be a short price in this race. I will not try to beat him. He's 2 for 2 in his career. I don't think either of his 2 career wins are what you would call the most impressive victories in the world, but he's just done what he had to do. He stretched out effectively last time, and it did sort of feel like when he was challenged by the runner-up in there, he was just finding what he had to find to hold that horse off.
He's got a lot of guts. He reminds me of Game Winner that Bob Baffert had, champion 2-year-old from a couple of years ago, a horse that really wants a fight. I agree with you. You look at these wins, they're not the typical Baffert monster 3-year-old performances, horses winning off of the screen. He's got to dig down deep. He did that last time out at Los Alamitos, attacking the pace setter, eventually putting that horse away, then looking Anno Deor, the Breeders' Cup juvenile runner-up in the eye in the stretch, and fending that horse off. He likes a fight. He has tactical speed. He just looks like he's too much for these horses right now, unfortunately, at a short price. Our colleague David Aragona, he does not like short prices, and he does not have one for you in this week's Timeform US Spotlight. Here's David looking for value.
Hi everyone, for this week's Timeform US Spotlight, I'm going to take a look at the 6th race at Aqueduct on Saturday. It's a New York bred allowance race for nominators of 1 runners going 6 furlongs on the main track. I think there's a pretty interesting group here. The likely favorite is going to be the number 1 Collegeville Girl. Let's start by taking a look at her past performances in the Timeform US PPs. She's coming off a 2nd place finish at this level last time. She was 2nd to Prairie Fire, who was winning her 2nd consecutive race for Linda Rice. Collegeville Girl is just a pretty unpredictable kind of horse, though. When she's at her best, she's clearly good enough to beat this field, but she kind of has this bad race, good race pattern going for her. She ran well last time, but prior to that, she was inexplicably disappointing when she lost as the 6-5 favorite back in November at Aqueduct. Before that, she ran one of her better races when she won at Belmont, but then prior to that, she again was pretty bad in the Cotillion, again overmatched that day, but it just speaks to the general inconsistency of this filly. And also, she's lost some of the early speed that she once had, and I think that could compromise her chances a little bit in this relatively small field. One of the horses that's likely to take money as an alternative to that favorite is the number 4 Cape Cod Diva. Cape Cod Diva is a filly that's moving up in class off the claim for Rick Schosberg. Now, maybe you might like that because Rick Schosberg is coming off a pretty strong year in 2019, though he doesn't have the best numbers first time off the claim, and this filly was facing weaker company in her prior 2 dirt starts. She beat a pretty soft field 2-back when she won that N2 Nominators of 2 Lifetime claiming 25,000 event at Aqueduct, and then last time she was beaten by a much better horse in Sadie Lady, who got to control the pace on the front end. You'll notice the pink color-coded race rating box indicating the track was a little bit speed favoring. Also, those blue color-coded pace ratings indicate that the pace of the race was very slow, which may have compromised Cape Cod Diva a little bit. But still, Cape Cod Diva just kind of sucked up for 2nd that day, really wasn't doing a whole lot of running at any point. I think she's going to have to improve a little bit to beat this field, and due to my lack of trust in those 2 short prices, I want to take a shot with somebody else, and my best idea is going to be the number 2 A Will Away. Before we look at her PPs, though, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector in this race, because I think it really highlights why this filly might be dangerous. You see that the number 2 A Will Away is shown on the front end in a race where nobody else is likely to challenge her, because the number 1 Collegeville Girl, who I mentioned as the favorite, has kind of lost some of her early speed, and the other horses that are predicted to be close to the pace just don't have the front running speed of A Will Away, and it's a situation where the pace projector is predicting that the horse on the lead will have a significant advantage. Looking at Willoway's past performances, you see that she hasn't been in action since last July when she finished off the board in that New York Oaks. She just doesn't want to go a mile and 16th, so I'm not going to hold that race against her. Two back, she ran fine when she was third by a neck in an allowance race at Finger Lakes. That day she was battling for the early lead. The horse that she was dueling it with ended up finishing last, and she just got cut down in the late stages. Prior to that, she was earning some speed figures that put her right in the mix here. She got that 100 time Formula speed figure for her maiden win back in April, a 98 3-back when she beat a decent field of allowance runners. Now, I know those Finger Lakes figures don't always translate to the NYRA circuit, but she's just coming back in a pretty reasonable spot for Robert Closeris, who can send out a winner, and she's got a new apprentice rider, Luis Cardenas, on her back, and he's been riding very well, just recently lost his 10-pound bug. He's now riding with the 7-pound weight allowance. I think he's going to send this filly to the lead, and if she gets clear early, she could be tough to catch here. I've got her at 8-1 in the morning line, and I'd be pretty happy with a price like that.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. Let's go to Craig Milkowski. He likes something in the Swale Stakes at Gulfstream on Saturday.
My best bet this week is going to come from the Swale Stakes, a 9-3 Saturday at Gulfstream Park. Green Light Go is the horse to beat. He's the likely favorite. But I'm going to take a look elsewhere. He's a horse that I think he hasn't run as fast as a couple others in here. And the horse I'm leaning to is Mischievous Alex. He's a horse who didn't do a whole lot of running on a speed figure scale. He had won his debut in decent time, but then he had regressed a bit, even tried turf. But his last race when he put blinkers on for the first time was really an eye-opener at Parks. He set a fast pace that day. He drew off easily. He did it with a 1:14 Timeform US speed figure. And what I really like about that race is if you pull up the chart for his race in the Timeform US PPs, it's been a really strong race. Several horses in the field have come back to win in either their next start or two starts later. And not only have they won, they've done so with as good or better speed figures than they earned that day. So I think that 1:14 speed figure is totally legit. Some might wonder why I didn't go with Untitled, a horse who broke his maiden and has an even higher Timeform US speed figure of 1:17. Something I should put in perspective. Green Light Go, who's the likely favorite in here, has never topped a 1:06 yet. But with Entitled, that was a very tough speed figure to make. It was one, there was only a couple 6 furlong races on the day. The horses who have won, the runner-up did come back to win, albeit with a much lower speed figure. Some other horses have come back to run from that field, and they haven't run very well. Their speed figure has regressed. So that one is a lot more questionable in my opinion. I did note that in our race rating box. You'll see an F saying it was a tough figure to make. The F means because it was full of first-time starters. And the other reason is, as I mentioned, there just wasn't a whole lot to go on. So that's probably one I will revisit. I'm not saying Untitled won't run well, but I'm just a little more shaky on him, and that's why I prefer Mischievous Alex.
My best bet will come early on the Aqueduct card, race number 2. I like the number 1 in here, Blue City for Linda Rice. This is a horse who when we last saw him at the end of December, they tried to stretch him out. He caught a sloppy track. He just sort of rode the rail in there and got tired at the end of the race behind a horse who was returning to running the Withers later on Saturday's card. Prior to that, though, I thought he made a promising first start for Linda Rice at Saratoga over the summer. He didn't necessarily back that race up all that well. He lost a few starts in a row, but I thought he had excuses for those losses. And then he came back with this race. This is 2 starts back for him against a similar field maybe to the one he's facing now. He showed a little more tactical speed in here. He's going to take this race over at the top of the stretch. He's going to win off by over almost 3 lengths at the end of the day here. I thought this was a good performance for him, and I like him cutting back in this race. There are some horses drawn to his outside who have run faster than he has. So he's going to have to up his game a little bit, but I like him cutting back in this race, getting back to a fast track, and he's a very fair price on the morning line at 6-1.
My best bet's at Laurel, race number 3. It's the number 5 Welling, and I've been waiting for Welling to stretch back out in distance. He's a son of Curlin. The dam was 3rd in the Delaware Handicap, going 1.25 miles. This horse wants route distances. His most recent race was his first start off a 201-day layoff. They brought him back going 7 furlongs, and I think it was a good prep for Saturday's race. Let's watch it right now. Not much to see. He's down towards the inside. He happened to catch a very tough 40,000 waiver maiden. 2 next out winners came out of this race. Noble Way, the winner, came back to score with an 86 buyer. He's staying on down towards the inside. I thought this was a good comeback. Now he gets a chance to stretch out to 1 1/8, and I really think that's what he's been waiting for. Best of all, he shouldn't be the favorite in this race. Todd Pletcher is shipping a horse down from New York that just cost $200,000 at public auction. That horse figures to take the money. I want to give Welling a chance at this longer distance as my best bet on this week's Out of the Gate. We thank you for watching Out of the Gate, and we urge you to follow all of DRF TV's offerings on social media. Please follow on Twitter at DRF Video, and for the latest news and notes from America's Turf Authority Daily Racing Form, please follow on Twitter at DRF Inside Post. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.